My name is Justin, and I am a son of God and an addict, and the host of the RICO 12 speaker meeting. And thanks to my God, the steps, and the fellowship of other addicts, I'm living the relative happy, joyous, and free that is promised to those living in recovery, and have been very active in the rooms of recovery since September of 2013. Welcome to the 113th meeting of RICO 12. RICO 12 is an organization with the mission of learning and sharing the similarities of addiction of all kinds, and gaining and sharing tools and hope from others who are trudging this road with us. We are an open meeting for all, no matter your life experience and background. And to learn more about RICO 12, please go to www.rico12.com. That's RECO12.com. Learn more there. RICO 12 is a self-supporting service, and we appreciate your help in helping us work our 12th step in this manner. I will put the information and links in the chat of the live meeting and in the show notes of the podcast if you wish to contribute to this cause. We look forward each week to receiving from the light reflected by our speakers from their higher power. That light inspires hope, meaning, worth, and growth in us, the listening audience. Now I'm going to introduce our guest speaker for today and a little bit about her topic, which is spiritual principles in action. And our guest speaker is Nikki M. She's been with us. I think this is her fourth time. And here is a little bit about Nikki. Nikki's story is one of transformation and healing, distinguished by her practical application of the direct instructions of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. She carries the undiluted message to countless rooms, sponsors both men and women, provides service to numerous local community groups, and can be found at Noodle It Out with Nikki on Monday mornings. And I'll post that link to those meetings in the chat in the show notes. And Nikki has abandoned herself to God and understands her purpose is to fit herself to be of maximum service to God and the people about her. She continues to work a rigorously honest program and believes to be vital, faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish constructive action. Nikki, the floor is yours. Take it away, girl.
Thank you, Justin, for having me back. And just thank you for all the service work you do in your fellowship and our fellowship and in this program and all fellowships. So just thank you. I'm Nikki M, a grateful member of this beautiful fellowship of many fellowships, as Justin referred to. And I'm supposed to introduce myself according to page 49 of our big book as the spearhead, the agent, the intelligent agent, spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation. And that's not arrogant of me to do, because it says I have the most loving, powerful God. It says I can choose whichever God I want in this program. So if you want to know why I qualify to be here, as Justin said, I have a speaker tape on here that talks about how the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous saved a sex and love addict's life, an Al-Anon member, someone who suffers from the disease of alcoholism. I also have a tape on the promises because they're real. I think when we meet in the beginning of COVID, Justin, it's 2.5 years later, and it's like the promises are still very real. And then also we have a tape here, Justin, about how to create the fellowship we crave, how God will show us how to do that. And that's still true for me. Our fellowship is still growing, which is the Big Book sponsorship family and the Spiritual Gangsters Online. And what do we do there? We work out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We have a monthly workshop. We come with a workbook guide, which is the Cole Notes versions of the 164 pages of the Big Book. And we work this program rigorously, honestly. We abandon ourselves. We don't surrender. We abandon ourselves. We take page 14 very seriously in our fellowship. Simple but not easy. A price must be paid. Meant the destruction of self. And so I'm here today because I like this teaching tool that you use here where you record me, because I still only have my silly smartphone, stupid phone, and I don't have a computer or sound system as good as yours. So I just love when you record this so I can use this as a teaching tool, because I do sponsor. That's what this program asks of me. And I get a lot of calls on, especially, Justin, I think I've talked to you about it, that basically we have a lot of people come into our fellowship, which is the process addictions more than, say, alcohol and drugs. We're all of the other addictions. We do have alcohol and drugs, of course. We have a CA meeting. We have all kinds of meetings, but Sex and Love, Addicts Anonymous is where my home group is on Wednesday nights. And we have a lot of people who've been sober sober off they pick up chips, 13 years sober, but they're still dying, prey to misery and depression, can't manage personal relationships. The promises are not coming true. And so this is why I really like to use this as the spiritual principles and actions, because a lot of people come to me and say, I'm working a program, Nikki. I've been here 13 years and I still want to die. And I say, well, I'm praying and meditating. Well, what does that look like? Because faith without works is dead. That's right in our big book. Faith works, but faith without works is dead, meaning action must be taken. There's a whole chapter called Into Action. A lot of people forget that. They think that meeting makers make it. You've been in the rooms sharing your mess, not the message. You've been 13 stepping. I didn't see that in the program. You've been 11 stepping, only doing prayer and meditation, maybe a daily, maybe a inventory once a week. Maybe you're looking at your part, but it doesn't say, what is my part? Page 67 says, where am I to blame? It says, I disregard the other person entirely. I mean, this talk could actually be called Exact Instructions of the Big Book. So have me back for that one too, Justin. The exact instructions of the Big Book are to be followed. Well, Nikki, that's radical. Page 117 says, I'm to have a radically changed attitude, that God, replace the word God, you don't like it, for the spiritual principles will show me how to have. How do I know what the spiritual principles are of this program? Well, I did a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. And when I did a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself, I saw exactly what I am, a fact-finding process. And I saw what I am, black and white on paper. And then what did I do? Well, my sponsor showed me how to flip the script. If I'm these things, and I'll just tell you what my moral inventory is. Many of you in my fellowship have the same exact one: false pride, arrogance, self-loathing, rudeness, suspicion, distrust, envy, selfishness, self-seeking. I like validation, center of attention, and I like recognition from others. I'm dishonest and I love to exaggerate. I'm intolerant, inconsiderate, I'm greedy, I'm lustful. And I don't mean just lustful sexually. I mean, I want your attention. I lust after your money. I lust after a lot of things. I hate you. I'm resentful. I'm lazy. I like to procrastinate. I'm impatient. I'm fearful of everything. I'm irresponsible. I love to martyr blame. Oh, I've got vulgar talk. I'm a retired stripper. I can get down and dirty. Moral thinking, gossip, and slander. There I am. You can find that on the workbook on page 18 of our fellowship that comes with this workbook. You'll see my inventory there, column 4. So now I'm armed with the facts about who I am because I disregarded the other person entirely. Page 67. I look at where I'm at fault. Where am I to blame? Not what is my part. So I know who I am and how I'm showing up when I'm not connected to this power. I like to remind everybody we're not looking for God. We're looking for power, right? So now I'm armed with the facts. And if this is who I am, the opposite of who I am is what God is, what the spiritual principles are. So if I have false pride, arrogance, and self-loathing, I better get humble. Now, what does that principle look like in action? Humility. Well, Nikki, I'm practicing humility. I'm reading all the things on humility. Okay, well, which action are you taking? Let's put a principle into that. Humble. You don't know anything, right? So what does that look like? That looks like an action of reading your book. Put that down besides that principle. Why don't you read and then give your sponsees and give your God Squad specific instructions? Read the book for an hour a day. Well, where does it say that? It says it on page 112. Read this book. So that's the action for me to get humble. Oh, the action for humility is that you're always fighting with your person. Well, why don't you have God sit on your tongue? And what does that look like, Nikki? Why don't you be quiet for 5 minutes? Set a timer when you're listening to your sponsee, when you're listening to your sponsor, when you're listening to your husband, to the teacher, to your boss. Listen. That's a good start for getting humble. The principles in action, not just talking about it. These are the steps we took, not read and talked about. If I'm rude, I better get polite. What does that mean? Oh, I'm going to be more polite, Nikki. Okay, what does that look like? Well, how about when you see somebody, you give them a compliment? Wow, your eyes are so blue in that light. And this is not a sexual comment. This is not a weird comment. This is looking into people. Wow, I'm wearing an orange shirt today. And I don't really wear orange, but my boyfriend told me I wear too much black. So I started wearing color. Wow, Nikki, that orange looks good on you. Really? I hate color, but I was told that I need to wear a little thank you. How about giving a compliment? Looking for the God in everybody or looking for the good in everybody. Hey, do you do that? Or do you just look for the bad in everybody? Spiritual principles in action, polite. How about you start speaking to your boss with respect? We practice these principles in all our affairs, not just for sponsoring, not just in the rooms, not just with grandma. How about, did you tell the lady at the grocery store you're being polite? You're practicing these principles in all your affairs in action. Looking at the woman who's checking you out at the grocery store, making eye contact. If you still have them. In Canada, they're taking all those jobs away. Outside issues. It's like a machine now. So I don't use that lineup. I go to the humans, right? I was a unionized worker. So I like to keep jobs for people. Anyway, that's another topic for another day. Trust. If I am suspicious and jealous of everyone, I better trust. Well, how do you trust? What's the action? I'm going to trust God more, Nikki. Well, what does that look like, sir, madam? How about you read a promise a day? That's an action I like to give my sponsees. Why don't you read a promise out of this big book a day and think about it all day? Don't think about him. Don't think about her. Don't think about what you're going to eat for dinner. Don't think about the drug you want, the alcohol party that you need to miss out on this weekend because you're newly sober, or that phone call you're waiting for from him or her or them. Why don't you read a promise and let it ruminate all day just for today? Page 86, upon awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. Trust. Oh, you're a member, you're Jewish, you're a Christian, you're a Muslim. Why don't you read your religious book? Oh, Nikki, there's no room for that in the program. It says on page 87, see where religious people are right, make use of what they offer. Why don't you see where religious people trust their God, their power? That's trust. It's an action. So I give my sponsees an action to take. Why don't you go and research what they know in their books, in their readings, in their prayers? How about in our prayers? The promises are true. They're true. You must believe this book. Why are you here if you don't believe this book? Why are you here if you don't believe what's inside the master book of all 12 steps? My Bible for survival. Okay, if I envy and covet everything, I better get content and be filled with gratitude. Oh, Nikki, that's not in the book. Yes, it is. It's on page 119, 119. We pause and count our blessings. So I give my sponsees an action to take. Obsession of gratitude. You want to obsess about him? You want to obsess about her? You want to obsess about the food, about the drink, about your government, Nikki, and your rights, Nikki? Well, then you better obsess about what you do have, because you're delusional thinking that you have no rights. Weren't you doing everything you want, but you can't get on a plane? That's okay. You got everything else. Why don't you obsess about gratitude? This is not a gratitude list. This is the obsession. Why the obsession? Page 23 says it centers in my mind, not in a bottle, not in his pants, not in the baggie, not in the fridge. So I better obsess about something. So if I'm envy and coveting, I better get obsessed with gratitude. What does that look like? Yeah, it looks like a gratitude list. It looks like thanking God when I put something in my mouth. It looks like thanking God when I go to unlock my bike that it hasn't been stolen in downtown Toronto every time I go to. It looks like constantly thanking God, constantly thanking love, responsibility. This is radical. Next thing, I'm selfish. Oh no, I'm not. I'm Al-Anon. Look what I do for you. No, you do it because you want to control, martyr, manipulate me, Nikki. Oh, you're right. That's right. That's what the book says. See, I read the black print on the white pages of my blue book. And it says on page 62 that selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of my trouble. Not the food, not the drinks, not the drugs, not the men, not the money, not my kids, not Toby, my 4-pound dog. Selfishness and self-centeredness is the root. So if I'm selfish, I better get helpful. Well, I'm helpful, Nikki. I sponsor, and you're still spinning. You've been here for 14 years sober. So why don't you go and what did we do this weekend, Kimia? We did a clothing drive. You guys know Kimia. She's part of my fellowship. We did a clothing drive this weekend in downtown Toronto. It was a clothing swap. We got everybody we know to bring your bag of clothing. And it's always that clothing you're like, that's too good to go to the homeless. Well, no, it's not. Everyone bring it. Take something. I got a fabulous new dress. I should have wore it today. And free. And then we invited, Kimia literally went on the street and started rounding people up. Come in and get what you want. And then whatever was left over, we donated to the Salvation Army. See, this is radical. Page 77 says that your purpose is to serve God and God's people. Doesn't say sponsor on there. That helps because you're in a program where it requires sponsoring, teaching this program, teaching what it means to practice these principles in all our affairs. Helpful. Well, I did, I went and saw grandma last week. What did you do at work? You have a job. Were you helpful to the clients? Were you helpful to your boss? Were you helpful to your coworkers? Or did you go in there wanting something in return? A sincere desire, wanting nothing in return. We take a sincere position. The words matter. So I have to get the principle in action of unselfish is I better be a servant of this program, servant of love, a servant of forgiveness, a servant of being responsible and accountable. We'll get to those principles in a moment. Helpful to others. If I'm self-seeking and I want validation, my sponsor Cameron says, validate others. I want you to tell me how pretty and beautiful I am. I'm going to be 49 soon, okay? I want to be told these things. But guess what? I got to tell you these things. I got to look for, again, the God in you. This is not about reading the book over and over again. This is like taking little actions. Today, when I spoke with a sponsee this morning, we're doing a 3-way, me and my sponsor sponsoring his sponsee, and he's got some serious drug problems. But today we started very simple with making your bed. He's a grown man, doesn't make your bed. How about eating right? Because that's where it starts. If you don't eat right and make your bed, you're definitely going to pick up the crystal meth today or her today. And she doesn't belong to you. Remember that? All right. This is serious stuff. Oh, I like to be dishonest and I like to exaggerate. So I better get honest. Well, I'm honest, Nikki. What does that look like? Because if you're getting honest, you're following the exact instructions of this book. Did you make your step 3 decision today? Did you step 6 and 7 get willing to stop doing the things you want to do? And did you get humble and start doing the things you don't want to do? Did you do your step 10? Did you pause when you're agitated? Did you not drift off? Page 86, must not drift off. Did you obsess about, this is serious stuff and you will make mistakes. The book says that. The book says there will be ups and downs, but we have a fellowship. We have an instruction guide. I have a God squad. I have a tight schedule that doesn't allow me to drift out too far because this is a lifestyle. We don't come in here to stop drinking, stop eating, stop sexing, stop scrolling. We come in here to live. We entered the spiritual world. It's not a theory. We must live it. All right, that's all in the book. Next principle in action. If I'm inconsiderate and intolerant, whoa, I better get accepting and tolerant. Well, I'm accepting, Nikki. Well, how? How about you start here, new sponsee, on page 417 and know the prayer. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems. You say you accept, but you don't. Because if you did, if you really gave your life to God today, why are you having fear? See, God is everything or God is nothing. It's very radical. God is everything or God is nothing. So acceptance is the answer to all my problems. All, circle all on that page 417. It says right here, nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Why are you complaining about your past? When it says on page 124 that your past is your greatest asset. We're not allowed to do those things anymore. Remember, we smashed the idea that we're like other people. Other people can whine about their past. We can't do that. Well, my therapist said, you're beyond human aid. It's really serious stuff here. Really radical. Then it says here that I'm just looking at my fourth step. I'm looking at who I am because I'm armed with the facts and I want to do the opposite of what I do. A moral inventory I took so I can learn who and what I am, armed with the facts so I can practice the opposite of what I do. Contrary action. So here it is. I'm greedy. Ooh, I better be generous. Well, are you generous really? Or do you want something in return when you buy that person the coffee? Are you generous of giving of your time? Or do you expect something in return? It says we are to sincere desire, wanting nothing in return. That's what the book says. So this is, see, I'm supposed to on page 98 and I'm jumping around. I hope you're taking notes because page 98 says, I am to burn into the consciousness of every man, woman, child, that they can get well regardless of anything, anyone. Oh, but I'm doing the program, Nikki. Well, are you? Because you're just sitting here in meetings. You're just talking about it. You're not walking the walk. How about this on page 275 when it says toe the line? I love that. When people in my fellowship, they're like, well, Nikki, it's like, I'm sorry, you're in a fellowship and it says toe the line. And what does that mean? I'm trying to get to the definition real quick here because I write, hey, if you don't know what these words mean, Google it. It means to accept the authority, principles, or policy of a particular group. I'm in a 12-step group. I'm a member. It means that I accept the principles and policies of this program, which means I'm always at fault. I'm always to blame. I must not drift off. I must smash the idea that I'm like other people. I must get into action. Doesn't say these are the steps we talked about. And then page 420 can even support this talk, which says, I never sit and do nothing while waiting for God to tell me what to do. Instead, I do the next right thing, make my bed, plan my next meal, make sure my calls, make sure I show up 15 minutes before the meeting. I don't just log on at 7:01 and jump on when I'm sharing, not armed with the facts about what I'm sharing. I don't just jump on to meet a sponsee 5 minutes before. I get prepared about what we're going to talk about, what we're going to do. See, I teach the steps. That's what this book asked me to do. Asked me to take someone through and show them how I recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Then it says here, because I'm so greedy, I got to be generous. Are you generous? Are you giving? Sometimes it's not with my money. Sometimes it's with my time. Justin, you know I lost my job in COVID. You know haven't had a real job in a while, 2 years. And yet I became a professional volunteer. I became a professional volunteer every Saturday, and I don't like to miss it. I get FOMO, fear of missing out. It's like, I don't want to miss Saturday night meal, the community meal, feeding 200 homeless people. This is like the highlight of my week. It's a miracle. I have purpose. I have purpose. If you don't know why you're here, the big book tells you why. Okay. Then, greedy too. Are you spending time with the people who love you? You know, it says our behavior will convince them more than our words. And I want to dive deep on this one. Why is everyone writing a letter and getting nervous and reading it to them across from a coffee shop table? The book says you write a letter if they can't be seen. And it says innumerable forms. This is for the step 9 amends. It says innumerable forms. I'm not even to step 9. It says we've vigorously commenced this way of living as we clean up the past. See, Cameron, my sponsor, never told me right when I read the instructions for step 9, go out and make an amends. He very, very specifically told me, follow these instructions of the book. So I vigorously commenced this way of living as I cleaned up the past. It took me 5 years to make an amends to baby daddy number 2. Had he told me to do it that day before I went into step 10, I wouldn't be here because the hate was so real. 5 years later, there was no hate. I'd sponsored long enough to know this has become a working part of my mind. He had no part in it. It says disregard the other person entirely. And I'm ready to make a powerful amends. It was rad. And it wasn't words. It wasn't a letter. It was actions. It was actions. Innumerable forms is what the book says. Why is everyone reading a letter? I really just message me after. Let's have a Noodle It Out with Nikki session on why is everyone writing a letter? It says our behavior will convince them more than our stupid words. Oh, sorry. It doesn't say stupid words. It says words. I like to add words into my big book because it's like, you're just talking and I can't hear. I speak. What does the book say? Okay, let me get back to my inventory here. And Justin, I've got you on the screen. Obviously, you just give me a warning sign when I need to cut it out or when I'm wrapping up. Give me a 2-minute warning or something. You jump on here because it's a we, not me program. I need my brother, Justin.
You got about 3.5 minutes.
Great. I'll come in here. If I'm lustful, I better get intimate. Meaning I better take my time. Page 118, I better be patient. Means I better pause. I better seek counsel before I do anything that's not appropriate. You know what I mean. I hate and I resent. Action. Forgiveness. We just talked about it. A letter won't convince them more. Person I worked with recently said he writes poetry. And so it's like, then write a poem and read it to your mom. You're over 40? Sounds sappy, doesn't it? Do it. Mom melted. Mom made a photocopy of the poem and was happy. That's that's what it looks like. Principles and actions. Not I'm sorry. I liquid shit all over you for 40 years. No. A remorseful mumbling of I'm sorry won't fit the bill. Principles and actions. Active and zealous. Oh, I'm getting active. I'm coming to meetings every day. Are you showing up 15 minutes early? Did you get a service position? You sponsoring? You carrying this message? Or are you carrying your own message? Radical. I wake up every day. First thing I do, I grab my phone to send out my God morning post to you people, to send out the meetings for the day to you. I mean, I live in 12-step recovery. Does that mean I have a boring life? No, not at all. Call me if you want the details of how exciting my life is. I don't like to say it on camera because it makes people's minds explode. Because you can have that too. The book says I have a loving, all-powerful God. I just need to tap into it. I believe the promises, so they become real for me. Impatient. I get patience. Well, I'm patient. Are you? Because I sat 2.5 years without seeing my boyfriend in Luxembourg. I was angry at my government, as you people know. But now looking back, my government did for me what I could not do for myself. God did for me. Someone had to take care of 93-year-old auntie during the COVID pandemic. I got chosen. I couldn't see it at the time. I had to take care of 93-year-old auntie. She's got 50 nieces and nephews. I was chosen. No kids. I'm the one. And she told me the other day, I'm her best friend. I love this life. We're odd. Like we're two peas in a pod, but we're not. She doesn't believe in God, but I get to work for her. It's just, Justin, it's miracles. Fear of everything. So what do? I have faith, actions. I see where religious people are right. I take action. I get serious about this because my disease got serious about me. And when I get serious about God, God gets serious about me. Yep. Irresponsible. Well, I get responsible. And guess what? Doing these things is being responsible. Actions, sponsoring, showing up, making my bed, eating right. Oh, I need a meal plan. Do you? Because it says my job is to be helpful. Is it helpful what I'm putting in my mouth? Is it helpful what I'm putting in my shopping cart? Is it helpful to take a married man's number? No. Wake up. Wake yourself up. Is it helpful to get a dog when I can't even manage my kids? No, that was not helpful, but I learned. Mom bought me the dog when I couldn't get a husband. Wow. Don't bring your family into your disease. They try and get solutions when they're untreated. My mom's here all the time supporting me. We recover together, everyone. When we change, everyone around us change. Okay, one more minute to take it home. Immoral thinking, the obsession of gratitude. The promises are real. I did a talk, you know that, Justin, on the promises are real. I want everyone to, if you can circle back and believe it. This is an action program. The first principle of success is we should never be angry, is what it says on page 111. Well, I can't be angry. What does that look like? That looks like when you get angry, pause. That's an action. That looks like say your sick man prayer. This is a sick person. God, save me from being angry. Call a friend and tell them how much you love them. This is serious stuff because why? Family, we're in the grip of a progressive illness. We get worse, never better. A daily reprieve contingent on our spiritual fitness. So I think we're about here. I know we get into Q&As, but I want to circle back to the topic, which is spiritual principles in action. Nikki, I'm praying, I'm meditating. Well, what does that look like? I need a specific action. What time, what place, what are you doing? Details from your sponsees, details for your sponsor, because we die alone, not getting radically honest on the actions we're taking. Because the actions we're taking when we're not sharing them with each other lead us into a dark place, isn't it? And I want to end here on this one thing. If everyone could just turn to your book, and it says on page 1415, I'm going to turn there real quick so I don't mess it up. And this is, I think I started on another talk here, but I like to end it because this is why I get serious. For if an addict named Nikki M, and I'll throw Justin B in there, if we fail to perfect and enlarge our spiritual life through work, that doesn't say read and talk about the steps. It says work and self-sacrifice for others. I told you what your job is and I told you what your purpose is. Bill told you, Bill W. told you in this book. It's there. We, Justin B. and Nikki, we won't survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. See, if we don't work, we will surely think, act out, drink, use again. And if we think, use, drink, or act out, we will die. Faith would be dead. It's just like that with us. I love you, Justin, so much. My God, I love you deeply.
Thank you, Nikki. That love is reciprocated. Oh, beautiful. Love that topic. Love that talk. I've got a lot of questions that I wrote down. We've got several that came in from the live audience, and we're going to get right to those here in a minute. If you have live audience, if you have questions for Nikki, please type them in the Q&A at the bottom of the window. And here we go. The Q&A link looks like two speech bubbles over the top of each other. First question comes from Scott. He says, hello, Nikki. What is the difference between being in the program versus living the program? And how does growing up with God's help look versus simply showing up without taking action and following simple instructions?
In the program versus living the program. Well, Scott, if it's a Scott I know, you know what it's like to be in the program. It's like reading your big book and not believing it. I'll give you a real live example. It's like taking a French course and you go there once a week and you'll learn the language and you don't practice it out. You will never learn French if you do, or Spanish, whatever you're learning, if you don't go out and practice it in the real world. So we come into the meetings and we sit there and we talk about it and it's all in theory. Are you going and living it? What does that look like? That looks like following the black print on the white pages of your blue book. It looks like I'm afraid. Oh, I'm not allowed to say that. God is everything or God is nothing. And it looks like every day saying this. You know, I hear this a lot, Justin and Scott. It's like when I fall asleep, my disease is doing push-ups. I like to say when I fall asleep, I forget everything. I forget everything. And I wake up and it's Groundhog Day. That movie with Drew Barrymore, 50 First Dates, where Adam Sandler has to put the tape in and show her who she is every day. I need God to put that tape in every day and remind me I'm a servant. I'm a slave. Oh, you don't like this talk? It's too radical. Then go be a slave to your disease. Go and let me know how that works out for you. So Scott, in the program is just hanging out. Living the program is believing, taking action, and literally living page 53. God is everything or God is nothing. Till the day you die. That's it. It's here it is. It's so simple because that was a complicated question. And the book says simple but not easy. A price must be paid. Period. So simple. This is why people can't get it, Justin, is they want to throw other things in. The book repeats over and over again. It's simple. I can't, God can. Hope that answers that.
Yeah, thank you. And I love that concept of I can't, I'm powerless. But when I admit to myself that God can, God's power comes in, and all of a sudden the miracle happens, and that miracle
Amen.
can be really tiny or it can be massive. Either way, it's a miracle. All right, we have another question, several questions, but one here from an anonymous attendee. Hi, Nikki. So grateful for you. I'm a recovered cocaine addict. How do you deal with life when PMS hits hard so you can remain aligned with principles of the program?
Here it is. This is a great question. And we talk about monthly cycles, the period. We talk about these things, and our brothers need to know why. Because you're probably a son, you're probably a husband, maybe you're a dad. You need to know how women work. And it's true. So what is the principle? You got to get responsible. Mark it down when you're going to get your period. Get responsible. Put it on your calendar. How about lots of self-care around that, the days before and the days after? How about that? How about making sure you're eating right? Food is medicine. I can't tell everyone enough that food is medicine. Oh, where does it say that in the book? It says it on page 87. See where religious people are right, make use of what they offer. Period. Oh, and it also says page 133, we have many helpful professions. Go to a naturopath. They won't put you on a pill. They'll put you on a diet. Go see those doctors. Make use of what they offer. So this is serious stuff. You're getting your period. You better buckle in. How about a self-care day? See, I fast once a week, Justin. On Wednesday, I don't like to leave my house. I like to rest. I listen to a lot of Joyce Meyer, listen to a lot of Mark Houston, listen to a lot of Chris Raymer, Bob D. I do, I sponsor, I take it easy. I'm not eating that day. I'm really gentle. So I have to be mindful about, it's called the principle of being responsible. Makes sense, everybody? Don't book something crazy with the person you can't stand when you know you're getting your period. Don't not go and meet somebody you haven't eaten, you haven't slept. Like, this is serious stuff. It's called being responsible, called being accountable. It's called, like I like to say in Noodle It Out with Nikki, it's a tight ass schedule. You need to know everything. You have to know what your day looks like. And it doesn't mean, they say, well, Nikki, it's too far in the future to plan. No, we plan a month from now. But if something changes, oh, wait, that's okay. That's how God wants it. This is full reliance on God. So great question, everybody. And men, if you have women in your family, talk to it. Talk about your daughters. Explain this to them. This is what's going to happen. Every month you're going to feel weird. How can I help you? How can I support you? Do you need time for yourself? Can I send you for a pedicure that day, wife? Come on. I hope that helps.
Oh, thank you. I need that. Thank you.
I know you do. You're a family man. I know you need that, Justin.
And I've been surrounded by lots of sisters and lots of daughters and very few no brothers and one son. So it's a very immersive thing for me. So thank you for that. I came up with a question here that I really want to ask you, Nikki. Your list of character defects identified in your inventory. That's quite the list. It's long, it's extensive. Have you seen, or where do strengths and blessings come in? We as addicts, we beat ourselves up. We see that. And there's a lot of honesty there. I have to see the truth. I have to see my defects. But do I also need to look at strengths and be grateful for those and embrace those? Or am I just looking at the defects at this point?
Great question. Here it is. Page 55 of our big book says, deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. So those, remind your sponsees and remind yourself, those principles are already inside of you. Remember, they're indispensable. You can't go out and get these dispensed from a candy machine. So the good and the bad is in us. Kimia knows that page. Where's my big book quoters? It's like, there's a little bit of good in all of us and a little bit of bad in some of us. It's in the book. I can't remember the page, but it talks about us. It talks about it. It's all inside of us, the good and the bad. But what happens? So we're looking, it doesn't ask in that book to look for the good. It says we take a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And what it says, I got my book here. It says exact instructions are that we search out the flaws in our makeup, which cause our failures. And then remind yourself or remind your sponsee that deep down inside is the fundamental idea of God. It says we search fearlessly deep down inside. And then it says we find the great reality deep down within. So 3 times in that little part in the We Agnostics, God's inside of you. So you don't have to search far for God. It's inside of you. What you need to do is be armed with the facts about the flaws in your makeup, which cause your failures. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And a follow-up on that, are you witnessing in your own life as you put these spiritual principles into action to counteract those defects to, from greed to generosity or whatever? Are you seeing that principle within you, that characteristic is changing and going from a weakness to a strength? Are you seeing that at all in your own life?
Amen. I am. I'm greedy. I said I'm a retired. My Toronto license says burlesque entertainer. Okay. They don't put stripper. They put literally, you had to buy a license. This is, I'm almost 50. So this is almost 30 years ago. And it was like burlesque entertainer. I worship money and I'm greedy. That's a huge defect for Nikki M. And during COVID, I lost my job, blah, blah, blah. And when I say to you, I started giving more. And then God gave me more. I don't want to get into the details. You want the details of what God gave me? Call me, because it's a miracle. And I'm going to share one other thing. I have a guy, and he did I was sponsoring him. He's in Texas. And I'm going to send this tape so he can listen to it, because this is his miracle. He started tithing at church. See, religious people are right. He did his 12 steps, started going to church, all these things, found that, blah, blah, blah. He's like, he gave more than 10% of his income. He just says, I'm going to get crazy. Do you know, less than a year later, he got a raise up to 6 figures because he started giving and acting as if he was making that money. See, I started walking and talking as if I need nothing because I believe what the book says. So yes, when I start to do these things like the generosity and the greed, I don't want to be greedy anymore. I'm a person who didn't want to give away a dress that I love at the clothing, and I put it in there, and guess who got it? Kimia. It looks great on her. Okay, this is the miracle of being generous. God will do for you what you cannot do for yourself.
Love it. Those are great promises and great testimonials to that. Thank you. An anonymous attendee asks, how do we live by these spiritual principles, avoiding anger and so forth, as we maintain healthy boundaries and stand up for ourselves with the people in our lives?
Where the hell does it say boundaries? I'm a big book thumper, Miss Person Who Left a Question, or Mr. Person Who Left a Question. Where does it say boundaries? It says my job is to be helpful. So if it's not helpful, don't do it. Don't go around grandma if it's not helpful. Find some other senior to take care of. This is serious stuff. And I didn't see the word boundaries. I love this question. That's a very much like my boundaries. You gave your life to this program and to this way of living. If you're in the big book, I'm a big book thumper. So if you're in another book in Al-Anon and it talks about boundaries, then disregard this. If you're in CODA, if you're in ACA where they talk about boundaries, ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics, well, it says your past is your greatest asset. So what are you doing there? I want to know that, number one. Number two, the boundaries is this helpful? Is it helpful for me to go around someone who's abusive? No, so I don't do it. Is it helpful for me to blah, blah, blah? No, I don't do it, because we're included in others. So how do you live this? You do it. Here it is. Okay, let me take you to the page. I got to get on the page here. Oh, there it is. I want to say it's on page 60, I think, but we claim spiritual progress. Full stop. Rather than spiritual perfection, when I take my sponsees through that line, it says we, put your name there. Nikki M. I claim spiritual progress. And then I say, don't even look at the rest of that sentence because only God is perfect. So if you're here wanting to be perfect, let me know how that works out for you. Because the book clearly says on page 117, you will make mistakes. There will be ups and downs. And then on the previous page on 116, it says, when you do, consider it a boon, a treasure, a gift, because it leads to the deeper discovery of these spiritual principles of God. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. All right. We have a couple of similar questions or comments here from people. One with 13 years sober in AA, another member of another couple other fellowships. And they're basically asking how they can, connect with you in one way or another. And we don't want to give out your phone number or anything.
No, but this is
yeah.
where you can. Sorry to interrupt you, Justin, but I'm going to say, this is why we created the Monday morning Noodle It Out with Nikki show. I say show, it's a meeting, because it is a show, because I get really weird on there, because I'm weird. And I'm happy about that, because you know what? On page 417, it says, when I complain about you or me, I'm complaining about God's handiwork. And I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't know better than God. So where can you find me? Monday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at Noodle It Out with Nikki. And that's why that was created, because Nikki was every hour on the hour around the world because of COVID on Zoom. And I got out of my mind. So it was like, if you want to find me, come to this meeting. And then it's too early. It's too late. You know what? If it was an appointment with, Oprah, Brene Brown, Anthony Robbins, Jesus Christ, Mother Teresa, the Pope, you'd get your ass up early. But, it's just Nikki with the big book. There you go. And message us. We're all in there. Get into this family. Because when we started, Justin, I think we only had one group. We have 11 groups. Kimmy had told me that we have 17 meetings. I mean, this is all in COVID. And it's not about size. It's about souls getting to this message and soldiers carrying this message and not watching our fellows kill themselves and die.
Thank you. And I've got that link. I posted it in the chat of this meeting. It'll also be in the show notes of the podcast, where you can go and check out all of those meetings, including the Noodle It Out with Nikki meeting. And I've been fortunate enough and willing enough to get up early and attend a couple of those. And it is high energy and knock your socks off. Good stuff. All right. Another question. And this is from the other Nikki M. When does pausing so long that it flows into avoidance? When does that happen?
Well, that's a great question, Nikki M squared. I watched your miracle. I paused for 2.5 years. You guys know why. Some of you, if you want details about it, call me. They're outside issues. My government wanted me to behave a certain way and do a certain thing, and I didn't. I had to pause for 2.5 years. I'm a hardcore love addict. I'll sell grandma. I'll sell the dog. I'll sell my house, and I'll move to Luxembourg in a New York minute. I was on a deep pause 2.5 years. I didn't avoid anything. I threw myself harder into helping other people. Let's go through the instruction, Nikki M squared. It says here on page 70, we throw ourselves harder into helping other people. If sex, love, relationships, not getting what I want is troublesome, it says throw. It doesn't say just gently hang out. So I threw myself harder into helping other people than God did for me what I could not do for myself. Bingo. You guys know when I was away. That's why Kimmy did the Step 12 talk, because I got to Luxembourg. Remember, Justin, you were in my miracle. I'm like, wait, let's see. Do I do the Step 12 talk, or do I go to Luxembourg and have Kimmy do it? I mean, miracle. So then there's God doing for us again in different ways, because I couldn't get her on this channel. And the only way I could was, you need to fill in for me, Kimmy. And she did. Like, this is Nikki. This is Nikki M. This is serious stuff. The pause. See where religious people are right. Abraham told me to have a baby. He didn't want to pause. Neither did his wife, Sarah. They made him. She went and got her maid to sleep with her husband. And now we're all in a mess. Okay? We're all in a mess. Had Sarah just done what God said, which was wait. And I'm waiting. And miracles are happening. So how long is the pause? You don't avoid it. You get out there and work for God while you're in your pause. We never just sit and do nothing while waiting for these principles to tell us what to do. We do the next right thing. Make your bed. I know what you do for a living. Go out and do it better. You got a new dog. Take your dog out for a walk and meet a new friend at the dog park. Radical stuff, Nikki M. It starts at home. Make a healthy meal. and then get obsessed about what you do have, not what you don't have. I love this program. Thank you. It's an answer for everything. I'm getting high on God dope. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And by the way, Kimia did a great job on her Step 12 talk. If anybody wants to listen to that, go back and listen to it. Good stuff. One more question here from our live audience. This is from Courtney. Courtney says, "Hey, Nikki, you're such an inspiration, and I wanted to just ask. I'm a sex, love, fantasy validation addict, as well as a codependent. When did you feel ready to start dating?"
I love these questions. Courtney, let's go back. Here it is, page 63. When we sincerely took such a position, what's that position? We work for God. It says all sorts of remarkable things, miracles. And here it is, established on such a footing. What footing? Working for God, living for these principles. I become less and less interested in my little plans and designs. So God will do for me. See, I just kept living life. And then what happened? One of my friends turned 50 on his birthday, asked me to go to Cuba. And then God dropped a man from a country called Luxembourg. I was like, where the hell's that? Is that? No, that's its own country. And I was like, oh, that's not for me. I need someone in Canada because I had all my own plans and designs. But here we are 4 years later. I'm heading to Europe in 2 weeks to live a dream, Justin, for 6 weeks in Luxembourg, like dreams. So, Courtney, what are my plans and designs? When did I feel I was ready? When God told me. I didn't have any plans and designs. I work for God, and then God sends things in for me. This is radical. Google the word. No plans. Does that not mean that I didn't ask? I said, I remember, okay, just to end this, I want to end the miracle because it was like, I was on the beach in Cuba and I had played a single supplement for the room. That was an extra $1,000. I was angry at God for that. I was like, I was 40 something at the time. Like, can I get someone to share a room with me even? And then I remember I looked up the stars and I was like, God, I've really been working for you. I'm ready. Here's a key word in the book. Ask God. It says it all. Well, don't ask me what page because it's all over the damn big book. Ask God. And then God will do for you. So I hope that answers your question. Ask God, keep doing the next right thing, throw yourself harder into helping other people. Your little plans and designs are no longer. When you're going to date is when the universe, your power, tells you you're ready. And when I tell you to wait, from my experience, strength, and hope, wait. I just had me limited to Canada and a mountain man with an F-150. Okay, that didn't happen. God had a bigger plan, and it's just like mind-blowing.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nikki. All right, before we close up, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us and knock our socks off with?
Oh, wow. That's a fully loaded question. Listen, if you're not ready to make this step 3 decision to live this lifestyle, go out and suffer more. Go and check more things off beyond human aid. Move. I'm from California. Move to Toronto. My problems are deep down within. I'm suffering an illness which only a spiritual experience every day will conquer. We are convinced that a spiritual mode of living is the most powerful health restorative. And as I started off with Justin this morning, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out physically and mentally. And I can see it on you because, Justin, you've transformed. People didn't see you 2 years ago. I physically see you transforming. I feel your energy because the spiritual malady must be overcome before we straighten out mentally and physically. So the words of wisdom are here. They're out of the book. Simple but not easy. A price must be paid. Turn all things to the Mother, the Father, the energy of light that presides over us all. I love you guys. And I love God so much. I love love. I love being responsible. I love being accountable. I love having patience. And I'm not that person. We were reborn. Mic drop.
Boom. Love it. Thank you so much, Nikki. That was a great RICO 12 weekly speaker meeting for all addicts and those wanting to learn more about addiction and the recovery therefrom. If we didn't get to your question, or if you have other questions, live audience, please go to www.rico12.com or join in our Facebook community and ask those questions there and answer others' questions that come up. Let's see. Next week, we invite the audience to come back next week. If you've not yet rated or reviewed the podcast in Apple Podcasts, please go do so now. It's a great way to work step 12 and sharing this message with others. And next week, we'll be hearing from Deb in West Virginia, a member of SAA, whose topic will be intimacy with self, others, and higher power. I look forward to her talk on this powerful topic. Now let's launch off into the rest of our day with the step 11 prayer, St. Francis prayer that I will be saying for us. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen. Guys, come trudge this happy road with us. Work it. You are worth it.
Standing still a moment, carving out this time, reflecting on the landscape of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight, still searching for glimmers of light, feet still on the ground. I can still be found, standing still.
My wings are torn and tattered, but I know I still can fly. I may not soar unfettered, I may not rise too high.
Recorded in the book of life and bind it with the seal.